What happens when a successful entrepreneur's routine flight turns into a shocking confrontation with prejudice at 30,000 feet? Watch till the end to see how one man's stand sparks a global movement for equality and respect. The airport was bustling as David Carter adjusted his tie and walked confidently toward the boarding gate. At 36, he was a successful entrepreneur, founder of a tech startup, and a self-made millionaire. Today, he was flying to a conference in Seattle, eager to take a break from his demanding schedule. He carried himself with quiet confidence, aware of the eyes that sometimes lingered on him. A tall black man in a tailored suit often drew attention, but he had learned to navigate it with grace. As he stepped into the first-class cabin, the familiar scent of leather and citrus greeted him. The flight attendant, a petite woman in her 40s with perfectly coiffed hair, smiled politely. "Welcome aboard, sir," she said, her tone neutral but her eyes lingering a beat too long on his face. David nodded and settled into his window seat. The city below sparkled in the fading light, and for a moment he allowed himself to relax. This was supposed to be a peaceful flight, an interlude before the whirlwind of the conference. But something felt off. The flight attendants bustled about, preparing for takeoff. One in particular caught his attention, the same woman who had greeted him. She approached with a clipboard, her polite smile never wavering. "Good afternoon, sir," she said, her tone practiced but her gaze piercing. "Is there anything you need before we take off?" David returned her smile. "No, I'm good. Thank you." Her eyes lingered, scanning him as if trying to decipher a puzzle. "Are you sure?" she asked, the corner of her mouth twitching in a way that felt less friendly and more scrutinizing. "Yes, I'm sure," David replied, keeping his tone polite but firm. She nodded and moved on, but David couldn't shake the odd feeling her demeanor left behind. As the plane climbed into the sky, the tension only grew. The flight attendant returned with a tray of drinks. "Would you like champagne, sir?" she asked, her voice tinged with amusement. David hesitated. Her tone wasn't outright hostile, but there was something about it, something condescending. "Just water, please," he said. "Are you sure? Champagne is usually a favorite with first-class passengers," she added, her smile too wide, too knowing. "I'm sure. Water's fine," David replied, his voice steady. She tilted her head, studying him. "All right, if you insist." The exchange left a bitter taste in David's mouth. He tried to focus on his book, but the unease lingered. He glanced around the cabin. The other passengers seemed relaxed, unaware of the subtle tension crackling in the air. The flight attendant returned again, this time with a tray of snacks. "Would you like some pretzels or nuts?" she asked sweetly. "No, thank you," David said, keeping his tone polite. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "You don't look like the usual people who sit up here," she said, her tone light but her words heavy with implication. David froze. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled. Was she implying he didn't belong? "Excuse me?" he said, his voice calm but firm. "Oh, nothing," she replied with a breezy laugh. "I just meant you're different." David's heart pounded in his chest. He took a deep breath, refusing to let her see how much her words stung. "I'm fine where I am," he said firmly. The tension reached its breaking point when the flight attendant approached again, this time with a falsely sweet smile. "Is everything all right, sir?" she asked, her tone laced with mockery. David met her gaze. "Everything is fine," he said curtly. She leaned in again. "Sometimes people don't quite seem to belong in certain places, do they?" The insinuation hit like a slap. David clenched his fists, anger simmering beneath his composed exterior. He stood up, gathering his belongings. "I think I've had enough," he said, his voice calm but resolute. The flight attendant's eyes widened, but she said nothing as David moved to an empty seat in economy. The cabin fell silent, the weight of the moment hanging in the air. As the plane descended, a woman approached David. She introduced herself as Samantha Green, an attorney who had witnessed the entire ordeal. "What happened to you wasn't right," she said. "I'm going to help you make sure it doesn't happen again." Samantha's words ignited something in David, a determination to stand up, not just for himself but for others who had faced similar discrimination. Over the following days, the story gained traction. Social media exploded with the hashtag number #NotYourSeat, and people from all walks of life shared their own experiences of being made to feel unwelcome. The airline issued an apology, promising to implement diversity training for all employees. The flight attendant was suspended, but David knew this was just the beginning. His decision to speak out had sparked a movement, a call for fairness and respect that resonated far beyond the confines of one flight. David stood in front of a packed auditorium sharing his story with an audience eager to listen. "This isn't just about me," he said. "It's about all of us. About the spaces we deserve to occupy without question, without judgment." The crowd erupted in applause. David smiled, feeling a sense of purpose he hadn't expected. What had begun as a routine flight had turned into a journey of resilience and empowerment. A journey to belonging. The airline's CEO issued a public apology, pledging to make sweeping changes to prevent such incidents in the future. The flight attendant resigned after facing public scrutiny, and the man's decision to speak out inspired countless others to share their own stories of injustice. What began as a humiliating experience evolved into a powerful movement for accountability and equality. The man's courage became a symbol of resilience, proving that even small acts of bravery can create ripples that reach far beyond their starting point. It wasn't just his story anymore. It was a collective call for change that resonated with people around the world. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more compelling narratives, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tailcraft. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below about what you think of the story. Your support helps us create more thought-provoking and engaging content that sheds light on the human experience. Every story has the power to inspire change, and we're here to bring those stories to life. Stay tuned for more, and remember, even in the face of adversity, one voice can make a difference. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story on Tailcraft.